back to another episode of MJ's Progress Not Perfection. Today's guest is Nicole. Nicole had dealt with a lot of trafficking in her time. She was human trafficked, sex trafficked, whatever you want to call it, prostitution. She, she has literally the craziest, before and after that I've ever seen. And don't worry, it's in the first minute we get right into it. That's how I came across her. I saw the before and after on one of the Facebook groups for opiates, and my mind was blown that could even be the same person. Looking. I mean, you're gonna see. We're gonna get right into it. So just some trigger warnings about human trafficking and sex trafficking are to come in this episode. Okay, welcome to the show, Nicole.
Hello. Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time. You know, you have, I think, the most shocking before and after that I've ever seen so
Yeah.
far. Like, unbelievable. You look amazing right now compared to, wow. So, first off, how long were you in addiction?
So I started when I was like 19, and then I got sober when I was 27.
So that was in 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what were your main go-to for drugs?
Heroin and crack cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, where were you doing all? Because I'm always curious. Like in a city.
Yeah, so I was in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. You're actually. I talked to somebody from Ohio yesterday that was in the same area as you.
Oh, okay.
And they used to drive down to Florida 6 times a month to get 30s,
Oh, wow.
and that blew me away. But the thing what I know about Columbus is that it's Ohio State country,
Yeah.
and you know the colors run blue in my family.
Oh, okay.
So my only experience with Columbus was driving through like a Burger King coming back from a Michigan game, and
Yeah.
them not wanting to serve my brother and I through the drive-through because we were wearing Michigan blue because that's
Oh
where we
my
were the day
gosh.
before. They're like, you know where you're at, right? Don't get out of the car. Just when we
Right.
give you this food, get back on the highway.
Yeah.
So,
Serious fans.
so yeah, have you been there your whole entire life?
Yeah, so I grew up in Johnstown, which is like 40 minutes from downtown Columbus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your introduction to drugs? Like, was it like a childhood thing? Just to go
Um,
back to that.
so my dad's an addict, and so my mom tried to keep it away from us, but we saw things. And then in high school I just started hanging out with the wrong crowd, started smoking weed, and then started doing pills and drinking. So that's like it just led to harder things.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, because it looks like you just dove right into it. Like at
Yeah.
19, you're just like, all right, where's the dope at? Like, let's do
Yeah.
this. And was that like your full-time job was, trying to get high and then getting high?
Yeah, so I was in a program called Catch Court, and it's for human trafficking victims. So I was in different situations, and I didn't really understand human trafficking. And like, yeah, there's human trafficking where they come and take you and sell you like that, but there's also where they seek you out. They look for vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and they see you struggling, and those people just come and find you and like promise you a better life and promise you all these things that, with my addiction flying high at the time, it they promised me what I wanted, which was drugs and money, and just to not have to struggle. And so that was the start into being trafficked. And that lasted I that probably was going on for like 5 years, the last 5 years of my addiction. And the program that's here really saved my life, turned it around completely.
So they were more into like, here, we'll give you shelter and
Mhm.
we'll give you money for your drugs to support that, but then you got to do this and that.
Right. So they would like talk a good game and like give you something, and then when they were done, like they felt like, "Oh, I have control of her." They're like, "Okay, this is what you need to do to pay me back. Like I took care of you, so now you have to do this for me."
Yeah, that makes sense. And so they basically found you, like, were you living on the streets at the time? Were you homeless?
Yeah, so I was living on the streets and just staying like in houses that, you know, trap houses and just flop houses, just anywhere I could really.
Pretty much whoever was going to talk to you that day and then offer you a place
Yeah,
to sit, to sleep. Yeah.
definitely.
And when did you have your first kid?
I was 17 when I had my daughter. Um, and I was in her life for the first like 4 or 5 years. And then my addiction got so bad that I ended up letting her dad take custody of her.
Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, because at that point, you could barely take care of yourself, let alone a kid.
Right. And I felt so horrible for leaving, but I knew that I couldn't take care of her. And the best decision to make was to make sure she was safe and able to have the things she needed.
Yeah, 'cause at 17, you weren't really like doing drugs yet. So, like, just like, this is a high school boyfriend.
Um, so yeah, we were dating in high school and we were drinking and stuff then. So, I mean, I started drinking like when I was 16. So it just started with alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of us, that's the gateway. That's the starter for
Yeah,
us. And then you meet somebody else who's like, why are you doing that when you can do this?
right.
You know, was that the first? Because, like, how old are you now?
I'm 31.
31. Okay, so yeah, when you would have been, that was when the height of the pills when you were in high school then.
Yeah.
Pills were everywhere, especially according to, the girl I talked to before that was on just another episode a couple episodes ago, they were everywhere. Like her and
Yeah.
her husband would come back with like 2030s alone to your area. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
So,
so that's like the opiates. I started with perk 30s, and I was doing that for a long time and I could not find them. um and they were just really hard to get. You're getting fake ones. And one of my friends at the time that I went to high school with, she was like, try this, and it was heroin, and I snorted it, and from there it just got worse.
yeah, I can imagine. I mean, if I loved pills and I did pills and I was obsessed with pills for 9.5 years. And it's only because I love pills so much I never did heroin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was gonna figure it out. And a lot of people would give up and go right to heroin, but like I was dead set. Like I was always gonna find a way or find them.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
my obsession,
yeah, I've known of people that were like, I won't go to heroin. I'll just keep doing my pills and I'll figure out a way to get that done.
yeah, I got lucky. I definitely got
Yeah.
lucky that I had that, where I was like, no, I want these though. I want these. And also I knew that subconsciously, like, if I do heroin, I'm never gonna do pills ever again.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that was, the case even for you, that you only ever did pills ever again if you were with somebody who was like, no, these are free, just take them.
Yeah,
Besides
definitely.
that, you weren't buying pills ever again
No.
after that.
No.
Why would you?
Right.
And that was always in the back of my mind, and I loved pills too much to not want to like lose them,
Right.
because I knew the high was higher. Like, shit, I knew the
Yep.
high would be higher if I smoked the pills, but I was addicted to sniffing them. I was all of the entire ritual. And you
Yeah.
know you were an IV user. I'm
Yes.
only assuming by the picture that,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't that clear of a picture, I could still see the track marks.
Yeah.
And I mean, what were you, like 75 pounds?
Yeah, I got as low as like 70, I think, at one point, and I had abscesses all over me because I would just not care to even try and like get it in my veins. I just wanted to get done what I was doing and go back out and get more money.
Were you working on the street?
Yeah, so I would go back and forth from like working for an escort service and then going and working for on the street and then like Backpage and I had like multiple guys in my life that would provide me with stuff and I wouldn't have to go on the street, you know. And then I lived in this house. It was like trap house, and this woman and her husband used to keep us all the girls there, and they'd wake us up in the mornings and get us well and then kick us all out, and we were not allowed to come back, whether it was like negative 30 degrees out or 102. You were not allowed to come back until you had money for them to pay for what you had already used and to get more. And the only way to eat or shower or have shelter is to make sure you brought money back to them.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, get well means get high.
Yeah.
Like anyone that doesn't know,
Yeah.
like towards the end, I feel like I wasn't even getting high anymore. I was just getting even,
Yeah.
getting well,
Just
and
getting by.
feeling like I feel now, except for now I don't need the drugs to make me feel
Right.
the way I feel. That was the worst part about it. I'm like, I want to feel normal again, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so, what did you ever have any rehab stays in those 8 years or jails? I'm sure
Yeah.
you had to have
So,
gotten picked up for prostitution at some point.
yeah, a couple times, more than a couple times. So I did rehab when I was on pills, right after I had my daughter, and I left because I had overdosed, and my family was like, "You need to get help and everything." And as much as I wanted the help, I wasn't ready. And so I ended up leaving and tried to stay sober on my own. It didn't work out. And then, my disease just progressed. And then when I moved to Columbus, I was in and out of jail for prostitution, like paraphernalia, and all kinds of other stuff. And then I would get out and tell my family like, "Oh, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do it this time. I can do this by myself." And always go back to what I was doing. And the last time when I was 27, I got picked up on some old charges. Like I had went to jail before that, and I had like I missed court, and they had let me out so fast that they didn't notice I had a warrant. Like they picked me up for like paraphernalia and they put me in jail for it, and then they didn't know I had a warrant already, so I got out. And then after that, I went back and I was in jail for like 3 months. And while I was there, I was talking to some girls that were waiting for beds in a program. And she's like, if you really want to change your life and you really want something different, if you're tired of like doing the same thing and just not like going anywhere, then ask for this program, which is the Catch Court program that I told you about. And they help human trafficking victims and women that are in and out of the system get sober. They put you in a like treatment center, and it's long-term treatment. So I was there for 2 years, and you have to do all this stuff like groups and meetings. And I really got into it and really like took in everything that they were saying. I Going into the program, I had an open mind the whole time. And this is the first time I let myself let go of what all this past stuff and all the people from that lifestyle that I was living. I let them go and actually open my mind to living differently. And yeah, I mean, it worked out. I got a job and I was going to school and just, it just went uphill from there in my recovery. Personal life, it was a little different. I had met someone and my program was like, you should not be with him. You know what I mean? Like, he's bad news. And I ended up opting out of my program, still stayed sober, but I opted out because they didn't want me to be with him. And you know how relationships are when you're in recovery. It's like, I was just tired of listening to everyone, even though I should have. But he was using, and I would find, paraphernalia and drugs in the house. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we're trying to start a life. You're supposed to be sober. Like, why am I finding this stuff? Like, how much work I've put in. Why are we going through this? And he just wasn't ready to get clean. You know what I mean? And eventually I left because I had to think of myself and I had to think of my daughter. And when I left, I ended up meeting my second daughter's father, who is amazing. Like, he's not an addiction, and honestly, it's the most healthiest relationship I've ever been in. We communicate and we are still learning each other. You know what I mean? Because it's new. But yeah, we ended up having a daughter, and she's 3 months old.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you get to see your other daughter on weekends?
Yeah, so I get her every other weekend, and then on the opposite weeks, I get her on Wednesday nights.
That's really cool that you get
Yeah.
to like get that relationship back, and you know what I mean? Like, how long did it take of you being sober, before like you could see her again?
So I think I was like a year sober before her dad was willing, because I put him through a lot too. When she was younger, and he just didn't trust me around her, which is totally understandable. I get it. So I've been like, these past 4 years, I have been working my butt off to get him to trust me. And so it's taken a long time to get to every other weekend and every other Wednesday, but it's I think it's good for her because it's given her time to adjust to me being back around and knowing that I'm not just going to take off.
Yeah, that makes
Y-
sense. I mean, especially when she probably didn't hear from you for a while,
Yeah.
so all of a sudden you're back. I mean, and I'm sure, how was your relationship with like your parents while you're in out of it, like you're in addiction, like you were even talking to them?
Yeah, so my dad is in he lives in Missouri, and he's in addiction right now. So he would come and see me, and we would actually use together. Um, Now our relationship is distant just because he's still using, and I know that. But I am there to support him. I'm always like the one that just wants everyone to be happy. And so that's how he was in my life when I was in addiction. My mom and stepfather tried to help me, but towards the end, they just stopped talking to me altogether because I would make promises I wasn't keeping, and it was breaking my mom's heart. Like, she was not able to sleep at night without thinking she was going to get a phone call that her daughter has died. So, um, but now our relationship is super strong. They're in my life. Like, we just went to the sunflower patch yesterday with them. So I mean, she's super proud and just loving that I'm here, and so grateful that I chose to save my life.
Yeah, because, being in addiction, our days look all alike, kind of. They're all kind of run together.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there are some days when, like, you know, it's straight survival,
Yeah.
where people won't understand unless you've been in there, where you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you almost feel like you're in a movie, and you feel like you're the star of it, and you're not sure
Yeah.
when the other shoe's going to drop and you're going to be dead.
Right.
I mean, how many overdoses did you have? Do you know?
Yeah, so I had the first one, and I actually had to go to the hospital and get put on IVs and stuff, and I was there for like 2 or 3 days. And then
When was
there
that though?
was
When was that?
that was when I was like 20, I think, 20, 21. That was like when I first started using heroin. You know what I mean? And I had left rehab and relapsed, and and I was just wrong place, wrong time. And then there's been times where I have like been super out of it, but I don't know if it was like an overdose. But I know specifically one time, like it was like the last 2 months I was out there. I had That's when they came out with that blue fentanyl, or it was blue stuff, and I had did just a little bit of it, and I don't remember anything. And my friend, who's actually one of my best friends now, she's sober too. She's like over 3 years clean, and she actually saved my life. She like prayed over me, and I was not breathing. They tried putting me in the shower, and nothing was working. And she said she just prayed over me, and all of a sudden I just took a deep breath, and I slept for like 7, 8 hours after that, and then woke up like, what happened? What's going on? But right after that, I went back out because I woke up sick, and
Yeah.
I went right back out. Like my heart stopped, and the addiction was so strong, and it was pulling on me so hard that I just was like, I gotta go. Like I have money to make. I have to get what I need.
Yep. And I mean, because, so when did you meet, when did you first get into like meet these people that were going to take you in and, what we know now as human trafficking, but they wouldn't have called it back then, you know, they're just calling
Yeah.
it like a safe house, you know what I mean, where you can be
Right.
safe and get high and we got you and
Yeah.
present it. You're actually the second person to have that kind of experience, if that makes you feel any better, on my show. And that was actually my first guest, and she didn't even, you don't even know when you're in it what's happening.
Yeah.
You're just saying this is
So,
normal.
right. So I like with the escort service that I got into, I was dating a guy when I first moved to Columbus, and he had friends. It was a man and a woman, older married couple. They lived in Bexley. They had a big house, and they picked me up one day because he called them I like I need her to make money. So basically he was like giving me to them. And so they took me in and was like, we get a percentage of your money, and you can't talk to the men we send you to. After, you see them, you can't spend your money anywhere else. You have to spend it with us. As soon as you're done, you call us. Like, you have to pay for the driver. And what I didn't know before I got into my program was that even something as small as someone driving you to make money um, by prostitution is trafficking. So the person driving you to get the money, they're trafficking you, as well as the person paying you for those things.
Yeah. Yep, that makes complete sense. When was that picture taken, that, that picture that I saw that I just put up?
So I want to say it was like 3 years before I got sober.
So it got worse
Um,
than that.
yeah, so it got way worse than that. 2 or 3 years, I would say. My mom had texted me because we barely talked, and she was like, "Hey, I miss you. I just want to see how you were doing." And I was like, "I'm doing great. I'll send you a picture." And I sent that picture to her. And she said her heart just fell to the floor, and she texted my sister and was like, "Your sister just texted me and said she's doing great." And my sister, like, hadn't talked to me in a while. So she thought like I literally meant like I got clean and was doing good. And my mom sent her the picture, and my sister called her like, we need to get her out of there. And my mom's like, she's not going to do it until she's ready. Like, they were both just so heartbroken. And looking back and seeing that picture, I was like, what was I thinking?
Why would I send that thinking I look good? Like,
Right.
is that a, you know, I'm not trying to be, is that a picture that they used like on the escort site? Like, hey, look at this
Um,
girl.
I don't know if they ever did. I don't think they did,
I was
but
gonna say it's not
there,
really an advertisement for
no,
sex.
no, no.
Just be careful
So
with the
there,
bandage on her arm. I don't want.
right, right. Like, no, no. So that picture that day, I kind of like remember what was going on. I hadn't showered in forever, and the people that were making me go out and walk the streets and make money, they were like, we're not giving you any more stuff until you take a shower. And I was like, are you serious? And I have money. And they're like, you need to take a shower. And I was like, you know what I mean? Because no, I'm not going to make money looking like that. And my hair was all matted. Like, my hair was down past my waist. And in that picture, you can kind of see in the front, like, it's just completely like I didn't have it put up. It was matted to the back of my head. So, and yeah, like, it was crazy.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
Now in your sobriety, do
Mhm.
you work a program?
So the first 2 years of my recovery, 2.5 years, I would say, I went to AA, and I did some NA, but I kind of just like with AA, when I would hear people talk, I would put my own substance in for like the alcohol. But I also have a problem with alcohol, so I wasn't gonna like I could relate to. And so I was going to meetings every day. Even like when I got further in my program, I would go to 2 meetings a day, 3 meetings a day, because I had graduated my groups and was working and going to school for to get my associates in addiction studies, which I still had to finish. But I was super into it, and I started speaking at meetings and all that. And then eventually I just like kind of got away from going to meetings because of the marriage I was in. He was using, and it was literally consuming all of my time trying to make things better. But I like ever since COVID started, I've done some like on video, and I make sure that like I stay connected with people on my groups on Facebook. And I'm actually after the program, after I was done with the program, there's a group you can get into called the Butterflies, and it's for women who have over a year of recovery and just need to stay connected. And so I'm in this group, and they have meetings weekly.
Especially right now. Well, at least a lot of it's people, place, and thing. Let's be real. Like, at least you're with somebody who's not, an addict,
Yeah.
and as we call a normie.
Yeah.
So, that I'm sure that helps, and he's understanding of your past, it sounds like.
Yeah. His brother, he has a twin brother, and he was in addiction for a long time, and he's 7 years clean now. So he, going into the relationship, he had a grasp on addiction and what it kind of looks like from the outside view.
That's good because
Yeah.
not everybody does unless they've been affected by it in one way or another.
Right.
So did you go through the steps at all?
Yeah, so my first sponsor, I went through all the steps with her, and that's how I was able to do a couple, like I did 4 or 5 leads at different meetings. And yeah, I mean, the fourth step, I I don't know. I've heard like when I got to it, I was like so nervous because everyone's like, oh, it's so hard. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm okay with like looking at what I've done and knowing I need to like write that down and really consume what I've done and all that stuff.
Yeah, because that does help going forward. That
Yeah.
does help with, the resentments part of it for people that don't know. And resentments are a big reason that people relapse. Are there any, like, you know, big things that, in addiction where you look back and you're just like, I can't believe that was like, what I thought was the norm?
Yeah. So, I mean, staying up all night and sleeping all day and literally like just working for people, listening to other people tell me like, "Oh, this is the best way and you'll be so happy." And I was never happy. I was so miserable. And I just I'm just grateful to be out of that whole situation. Like I wake up every day and am so thankful that I was able to have the support cuz for me family support's like super important. Like having them around me and then also like people that I've met in meetings and like the people that were the women that were in the program with me.
Yeah, because, I mean, how long did it take before, like, you saw, like, actually you looked in the mirror and you looked better, you
Yeah,
know?
so well, I was in jail for like 3.5, I think it was 3 months, 3.5 months. It's so hard with time because people will be like, tell your story. And I'm like, it's so hard to tell like every part of my story, unless it's just like a conversation like this, like you remember things, but so much is so blurry. But probably like when I finally got to the recovery house I was in and was able to start doing meetings and doing my groups and actually looking inside, and then I felt better outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously you're in, in the recovery, in the rehabs, and they actually feed you better than you would in jail. So
Yeah.
you got to actually eat again, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that helped,
Yes.
where you actually started feeling comfortable again, because it had to have been an uncomfortable feeling, you know,
Yeah.
just completely emaciated,
Yeah.
so that has to be an uncomfortable feeling. I've never got that way. I was the opposite. When I did drugs, I gained weight. And I wasn't even like eating. Like it's not like I was like eating a lot. It was. I think it was just because it was pills retained so much water,
Yeah.
and I was doing so much pills that I just think I was
Yeah.
retaining so much, like, because I was pissing like once a day. And
Yeah.
and sometimes it was like, oh wait, I didn't go to the bathroom today. I should do that. It wasn't like
Yeah.
I had to. It was just something that like I should do. Which
Right.
is so weird to even look back and think like that was like normal. Like
Right.
going to the bathroom in general was not a fun experience when you're in addiction to
Yeah.
opiates.
Not at all.
And the shower, I don't blame you because the shower felt weird.
Yeah.
When, people don't realize that when you got a shower, when you were like in it, you were almost afraid, number one, to lose your high,
Yeah.
and two, like that water hitting you, it hurt. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a sensitivity thing. I don't know the science behind it. All I know was like it didn't feel good right away. To
Right.
be
And
put,
it took time away from getting high. You know what
yeah,
I mean? That was my problem with it. Like anything that took away from me getting high, I didn't want to do.
yeah. I mean, you're spending, how long were you out in the streets when you go work? 12 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how fast like you make money. So you're either out for an hour, half hour, or you could be out there all day and not make any money. You know
Was
what I
there a
mean?
certain like goal you had in your head, like, oh, I gotta hit $200 every day?
No, I mean, I didn't stop until my body literally like I would stay up for like weeks at a time. So I wouldn't sleep until my body literally couldn't function anymore. So I would pass out after getting high and just sleep for a whole day and wake up like, oh my gosh, how could I fall asleep? Like, what? My body needs sleep? I didn't sign up for this.
I think the longest I heard was somebody that I know in person, 32 days
Wow.
meth, all day,
Okay.
every day. And he was able, like, I said, how was this psychosis? Like, he goes, well, I was in psychosis every day anyway. It didn't matter,
Yeah.
but 32 days straight. And then he's like, yeah, then I slept like 6 hours and then you're up for like a week straight again, you know.
Yeah.
But he's got 2.5 months, which is the longest he's had in 15
That's
years.
awesome. That's awesome.
So, I'll be seeing him soon. He just texted me that and making sure there's a meeting tonight.
Nice.
Because he comes to, one a day. And so I'm like, yep, I'll be here 8 o'clock as I'm hopping on a call and come on
Awesome.
down. But so like, I didn't get into Zoom meetings myself. I was just getting ready to start this meeting center and
Mhm.
everything like that. So, and I was invited on to some, but I was just so like getting ready for this. And plus I was sick, and
Okay.
like I had a gallbladder problem for a while and I just wasn't ever feeling up to doing anything. And I
Yeah.
finally had that removed in a couple weeks before we opened. Um, which, I had my first experience with fentanyl in the
Mm.
hospital 2 months ago. And I learned that my body is still rejecting opiates because I
Mm.
told the doctors not to do that. Don't give it to me. And they gave it to me anyway because they're doctors and they know better. And I woke up high and I knew I was high.
Mm.
And they were like, you're going to be fine. You said you've been clean for 3 years. And I went into acute withdrawal right away and started vomiting for 18 hours.
Oh,
So,
that's the worst. Yeah,
so,
I did fentanyl the last like year of my addiction. It's no joke.
and so you were just strictly an IV. You only did IV though towards the end.
Yeah, towards the end, so like it started with pills and then when I started heroin, I would snort it. I forget how I got on doing IVs. But
Was it a boyfriend that was experienced? It's usually
no,
like,
no, because I think it was like one of my friends, from my hometown that I knew. Like most of them snorted it, but I think I was hanging out with one of them that actually shot it, and that's how I got on it.
then once you
So
did that once, it was like, oh,
yeah,
this is what I need. This is
yeah.
what
After that, I was chasing that first high for 8 years after that. You know what I mean? And it just
never
never
happened.
was as good as the first time.
Yeah, and people think that that's like, a myth or whatever. It's not. It really is not the same as
Yeah,
the first. The high, I took 2 perk 10s and I was off to the races. And no matter how many 30s I did, it's still really, I had been high again. And I mean, like, we hit levels of being really, really high, but you don't have the same kind of feeling with the high. And I think that's what we're looking for is that feeling with the high. Yeah, I've
yeah,
been higher. Yeah, I got way higher than that,
yeah,
but I didn't have the same kind of feeling with the high, like I arrived. They talk about it in the book. I
yeah.
arrived, and you don't have that arrival feeling once. You can only arrive once.
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
doesn't matter how many times you go out the back door and you come around again. You arrive
right.
once,
Yeah,
and the rest of it is just doing loops and trying to arrive again and replicate
yeah,
that high that you never ever get again. Were there people that you brought down with you? Because like I feel like I brought down 10 people that not that they're dead right now, but like brought them into addiction with me because they wanted to hang out with me or try to save me, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep doing this, and we can either hang out or we can't, but this is gonna happen.
so most of the people that didn't do hard drugs when I started doing them, I kind of left them in the past.
That's good.
So I was just meeting new people and going forward and leaving them in the past.
And none of these, customers, clients, whatever you want to call them, ever tried to save you? Like, hey, Nicole, like, you look like, I know, like, you're here for something else, but like, you need to get out of this.
Yeah.
Did that ever
So
happen?
yeah, there was this one guy who used to take care of me, and he would try all the time because he wanted me to actually be like a real girlfriend. And I was like, that's not what I want. I just want your money. Like that's all that matters. And so he would try, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'll call tomorrow," or I'll like he'll set it up. He would have set it up and for me to like go get like for intake or something, and I just wouldn't show up to meet him, you know?
Okay, that makes sense. Because I was gonna say I would hope there'd be at least one that'd be like, no, no, and then eventually you're like, oh well, there's somebody that I can control, and he can think he's
Yeah.
taking care of me, but really I'm just gonna keep him around because I want his money.
Yeah.
Like I want things, you know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever he has to offer, I'm gonna take it. What is that? Sugar daddy or
Yeah.
whatever. Where
Mhm.
it's like, I need dinner or I need this, but just give me cash though, and I'll
Yeah.
and I'll, I'll buy the dinner. No, no, don't take me to dinner. Don't take me to dinner. Don't take me. I need the money. I'll buy the dinner
Right.
myself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he um
does
and there
he
was
does he know you're
probably
sober now?
I have not spoke to him.
Okay, no, I was just
Yeah.
curious. You know what I mean? Like,
Because yeah, eventually, like, because he had his own demons to deal with, he started doing cocaine and actually almost died from that. And that was when I was still in my addiction that I heard about that because we kind of like drifted apart because I had introduced him to other girls and they'd be with me and then he started seeing them. You know what I mean? So like yeah, he would mention like, "Oh, get clean," and but he was married too.
yeah,
So, I
yeah,
mean,
I know how
his
that goes.
the way he was looking at things, still from his point of view, were still just as wrong as mine. You know what I mean? And it was just a messed up situation.
Yeah, because you're like, why am I gonna take your advice? Why am I gonna be your girlfriend? You got a wife at home.
Right. Like who
Like,
you're not being faithful to, who you obviously don't love as much as you say you do.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, give me the stuff, and
Yeah.
then and then leave
Right.
because that's all I really need from you.
Yeah.
You're using each other. Let's be real. He was
Yeah.
using you as much as you were using him,
Yep.
and that's a lot of addiction is a lot of using, not just using drugs. It's using people, manipulating people to fit whatever kind of thing you need that day or that month or whatever.
Yeah.
um, and you find out who really is somebody that like your friend that you used to get high with, and now you're both sober.
Mhm.
That's somebody who wasn't using you because they really just truly wanted to be in your life.
Right.
That's something that I've learned at least. So you've been clean then since that 3-month jail stint,
Yes.
and
Well,
that was the incident that brought you into sobriety, was getting arrested for a prior charge,
yes.
which was skipping court, was the charge they brought you in at.
Yeah, so I had skipped felony court for possession of drugs. I don't even know which drugs it was, but I had skipped court and I was constantly like all my charges like after they would charge me with something you'll see didn't show up for court and then new charge didn't show up for court. So when I was getting ready, that was the felony charge, and then I had a soliciting misdemeanor charge, and the program I was in was through misdemeanor court. So I was they accepted me into the program, but then I had to deal with felony court. And because I had ran so much after being charged and them letting me out, not showing up for court, none of the judges were, I was so scared going, like, none of the judges, I'm surprised one even trusted me, you know what I mean? And I went into the courtroom and I forget which judge it was, but he actually was like, you go out and work this program, we'll drop this charge. So we'll let you out on an OR. And I'm so grateful for that. Like, I wouldn't have had the chance to go do that. You know what I mean? I probably would have went to prison if he didn't do that.
Yeah, which it's a lot easier to get high in prison than people think.
Yeah.
And especially if you really want it, you're gonna find it.
Yep.
Whether it's through a guard bringing it in or through whatever running through the system already. And
Right.
I'm sure you already know that. But like, I did hear though from somebody, I forget who, that the men's side had a lot more drugs coming through than the women's sides ever in the prisons that they've experienced.
Yeah. So I know that I never have been to prison, but I've heard stories about it. And all the men I've heard talk about it, like there's so much. And the women's like, here and there. But when I was in jail, I can't speak for the men's side, but I know when I was in jail, like one of the first 2 times, there was actually somehow people brought heroin in. You know what I mean? And I mean, it was going like we would pass notes from dorm to dorm, and they're like, "We have drugs over here," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how are these people getting this stuff in here?" Like,
Practicing guards and a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
because they do a thorough check. They
yeah,
do a lot more of a thorough check for jail than you do a rehab. Rehab they do
yeah.
a pat down kind of check. But
Hmm.
like jail, they're like checking.
Yeah. Worst time of my life. We'll just say that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that it did not. I got arrested a bunch of times, but never had. I always was able to get out of it or get out of bail out or whatever before I even had to do the whole jail thing. Luckily, I mean there was one time that I got arrested because the cops watched me do a buy. Then they conveniently followed me into a school zone where they pulled me over. They waited for me to be in the school zone to pull me over. So once I got out of that and I walked out of there, I got in my car and of course, what did I do? I went right back to the dude's house to where I had just come from to buy more because I knew that they weren't watching him now because they were doing paperwork on me.
Gosh.
You know what I mean? And so my addiction's like, no, just go back and get more. They're not there right now.
Oh
So I
my god.
did. Yeah.
I've done that too.
So yeah, I'm not surprised. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you don't care at that point. And even if they were watching, fucking arrest me again. I'm going to get high before you arrest me.
Right.
This time I'm going to do all these before you arrest me. I'm going to enjoy my first couple of days in jail then. You
Yeah.
know, you know. So that was my thing is I never wanted to. How was kicking in jail?
Um,
did they give you Suboxone?
no, they don't give you anything
I
except
didn't
for
think
like
so.
ibuprofen. And stuff like I forget the medicine it's called to make sure you don't have seizures. But my withdrawing stage in jail was honestly just cold sweats and sleeping. Like I'd slept the first 2 weeks I was there. I would only get up to eat, and I made sure to eat because I knew that's how I was going to gain my strength back.
Yeah, so you didn't have any kind of like like your stomach wasn't all in knots or anything like that?
No, I got lucky because there was some girls in there that I felt so bad for, like taking cold showers. And when I'm sick, like the shower, like you were saying earlier, like it felt like needles going into my body. And I was like, no, I can't do it. Like they're hopping in and out of the showers, getting sick. And I'm just like, I'm just going to lay here, talk myself out of it, sleep.
Yeah. So and okay, so let's go fast forward back to now. And you're trying to finish up your counseling to get your associates in drug counseling, right?
Yes, so because I just had my daughter, she turned 3 months yesterday actually. I had taken a semester off, so I need to get, back in the headspace and start getting back in there. But I only have like maybe a semester or two left to do. And then I'm a stay-at-home mom now. I was working for restaurants and I was a manager, but because she's so small, I've decided to like stay home with her, and just do the family thing, you know.
What are you looking to do when you do get like your certification? Like, what are you looking to do with it?
Yeah, so I want to help other women who have been trafficked and, even teenagers and, young girls in addiction.
Yeah, that's good then because that's what you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You always want to like stick with, especially I feel like whenever we go through something and we find our way out, we kind of want to do the same thing to make sure others can know that we can find the same way. You know,
Yeah.
they can find the same way because you know as well as I do. Do you think you would have continued or how long you would have continued if you weren't arrested?
I would have continued until I got arrested. I was actually walking down an alley because I didn't want to walk down the streets because I was like, if the cops drive past the street, they'll see us. And so we walked down the alley, and by coincidence, a cop was going through the alley and just picked me up, you know?
What? Okay, so can you elaborate? Picked you up like
Yeah,
just
so he stopped me and I had just gotten drugs and had paraphernalia on me. So he stopped me and he searched me and then I had a warrant and he's like, I have to take you in. He's like, if it was just honestly, the cop was like, if you just had drugs and paraphernalia, I would let you go, but you have a warrant, So
and you're with a friend,
yeah.
and the friend get taken in too, or
No, it was an older guy, so he just went home.
oh, so it wasn't a friend. It
Right.
it
I
was a
mean, that's
client.
in addiction. Yeah, in addiction, that's what friends are.
Okay, so
Yeah.
okay. Well, I don't. Well, what did you call a real friend then in addiction? Like your
Um,
girlfriend that's clean now. What would you have called her then?
yeah, so I didn't know, like, I met her in addiction, so I didn't know, like, she was gonna be, like, my best friend when, like, I didn't, like, when I got sober, she was still out there.
Yeah,
So I didn't know we were gonna become friends, and in that part of my life, the people that were in my life were friends. You know what I mean? That's what I knew as of friends because, like, oh, they're getting me high or they're giving me money. They're my friend. They care about me. When in all reality, they were just doing that to get what they wanted.
yeah. And how did you meet up with that girl again? Did you see her like in prison or rehab? And like, oh my god.
So the court program I was in, we would have court every Friday morning, and they would bring girls that were in jail out to plead into the program. And she came into the courtroom and she pled into the program, and they actually they have different houses, like one out of town for people who don't think they can be strong enough to stay in the city. They send them to the country. And then there's like two other programs like around Columbus, and they actually sent her to the house I was in.
Hmm.
So out of coincidence. And then we stayed in the same room and got super close and built a friendship from there.
That's awesome. Like the way
Yeah.
that worked out. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm sure she had to have been relieved to walk in and see that you were looking good and
Yeah.
looking like were you looking a lot better by then? Like put some weight back
Yeah,
on you
cause
and
she came in like almost a year after I was there. So it was like 9 months to a year probably that she came in, and
I
she
would
was
have
able to see me doing good, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you look like a totally different person. Like you if you wouldn't have told me your name, I wouldn't have known that was you."
That had
So,
to have given her some hope right off the bat that she could get to where you're at. Like, oh my God, if Nicole can turn it around in a year, then what could I look like in a year now?
right. Yeah.
Uh, And I had to have, like, was that the first time that you were able to, like, see helping somebody make you feel good?
Yeah, so when I would go to court, they would some of the ladies that you would bring into the courtroom weren't like, "Oh, I want this program." They had so many solicitation charges that they were like the system was like, "You need this program. If you don't take this program, you're going to jail." So they would bring some women in, and the judge, he would ask us like to speak from the heart to these women and just tell them like, even if we had only been there a month, like how much different our life was compared to living on the streets, and like that they don't have to live that way, and that they can, have everything they've dreamed of in life, and they give you a foundation for that. And just speaking those words to some of those women, there's so many success stories because of that program.
And that's how you found that you wanted to help people with it too.
Yeah.
Just from doing that all the time. That had to have been a good feeling every time you were able to talk to a girl and she was like, yeah, you know what? I'll do the program.
Right. And I think honestly, like it made me stronger. Like seeing these women decide like they had like 3 days clean, and they're deciding like after they speak to us and hear our words that they're like, yeah, I want what you have. Like that made me stronger in my recovery, you
Yeah,
know?
it gives you confidence
Yeah.
that you're doing the right thing and that you're on the right track and that somebody wants what you have for the first time probably in your life. Somebody is saying things to you like, how can I be like you?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't happening in your early to mid 20s. People weren't saying, how can I be like you? Unless, like, well, maybe they were, but it was for a different reason. Maybe it was a girl being like, how do I make the money that you make, girl? Like,
Yeah.
that's not the kind of person you want to look up
Right.
to. You want her to look up to you later on
Right.
now, where they
Yep.
say, hey, Nicole, how can I be like you? How do I get to where you're at? What do I need to do? And what would you say? Like, what was the first thing you would say to somebody like that came in that what? Okay, this is the last question I have for you. Okay,
Okay.
if you were doing that program now, like, and you were talking to these girls, right? But what if you walked in?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, what if you saw you walk in? What would you have said to yourself to get yourself into that program?
Yeah, so I would have said to myself like there's so much more to life than being stuck in a hell that you feel so trapped in that you can't get out of. Um, there's a life beyond the walls that you've created. And that the main thing I think for me would be the foundation, because I never knew where to start. So, building the foundation, and they're handing that to you, like this program saves lives, and it's just amazing once you get past the first, you know, couple struggling days, you really start to enjoy sunsets and look at the sky and be able to look in the mirror and know that you're loved and know that you can love yourself again.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk and everything like that. Thank you again. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Have a good night, and I
You
will talk
too.
to you soon.
Okay.
All right, bye
Bye.
bye.